JJ joins us Tuesday evenings a little after 5. Also, Baylor Radio Color Analyst joins us on 365 Sports. JJ, if in fact you would have dialed up whatever Baylor was working on last week, what would have been your bullet points?
Oh, well, that's a good one. I mean, I think I think most of it's smoke, between the ears, really. And just in the coach talk, I read some stuff and it sounds like they really focus on the fundamentals, which I think that's always important. But I think ultimately, for this team, it's all about, just kind of working on them between their ears and then really just kind of honing in on kind of who are we? Because I think that's where the gap has been that, we kind of have some of the remnants of last year, but at the same time, this is a totally different group, totally different dynamic, and you got to figure out what kind of team we're going to be. So I bet it was an interesting week.
JJ, this team was so physical last year, and they've lost a little bit of that. Is it a good time during the bye week to maybe ratchet some of that? I know you don't want to hurt anybody, but maybe ratchet up some of that intensity to try to get that edge back.
Well, yeah, and that's a good one, Paul. I mean, it's a fine line though, right? Because you're 5 weeks into the season, 6 weeks in. And you just can't afford to get guys hurt. Now, they're a physical team, so they're going to do enough, contact to keep that mentality. But I think it's part of that. And then part of it is just really just the attention to detail. Looking at, you're going to spend a lot of time in film, watching, video of kind of, where the game turned, kind of who made the play, who didn't make the play. You are going to have those physical periods. But I think ultimately for this team, I think it's more of a mentality to say, hey, look, these are the kind of games we're going to be in. We're going to be in physical, grinded out games where then we'll be explosive with, kind of our pass game. But ultimately, I think you got to get the guys ready mentally. Like, look, these games are going to be hard. And the one who's ready to deal with the hard parts the most often are the team is going to win when we play. So, I think it's between the ears, 100%.
JJ, how hard is it to balance success and keep your edge when you're having success, if that makes sense? I mean, like one of the comments that he made was a lot about talking about playing with an edge, and specifically with like the offensive line, for example. I think probably some of that comes from, hearing all the talk from last year and how good they were and winning and all of that. So when you have that edge, but then you have that success and you get that praise, how hard is it to maintain that for an athlete?
It's tough, man. It's all human nature, and you got to think about. We're talking about, even though these guys are veterans, Craig. I mean, these guys are at 22, 23, maybe at the oldest. So it's human nature. You hear all the success, and you feel like well, maybe we have it made, but you really just. And I think I talked to you guys last week about this. I mean, just. Being on top is different. It's just a different mentality. And, it's different for a program. It's different for Baylor, being at the top and realizing that, look, no, you're going to get each team's best shot. I mean, really best shot. I mean, they're going to empty the whole chamber on you. And that's what we're seeing now. I mean, the stuff that, OU, of course, they're struggling this year, but OU is kind of having to face every week because they won so many championships. Our guys are facing. And we are or have been Team Super Bowl this year. We were BYU Super Bowl. I think Oklahoma State came out firing. They just felt like, hey, look, we're trying to prove something. So it's just that's why I say it's between the ears. The guys have to get ready that this stuff is hard. It is really, really, really hard, and to do it again is even harder. And that's where we are.
How much do you think that might bother Dave Aranda, who you would think can monitor that and understand that, and that's kind of, the way he is philosophically, that perhaps at times that he's underestimated where they are?
Well, I think to make this meal, there's a lot of different ingredients, and a lot of the connectivity is not just the players, it's the coaches too. And I think, that's what I think Coach Aranda is still a young head coach. This is his third season. Mm-hmm. So I think he's learning, having to monitor and kind of get the pulse of the whole unit. And I think this is, I'm not going to say it's a new form, but I think it is something that he is learning, while trying to figure this out. And I think like the big thing to me, as you look at it, is that I think he likes to he gives his coaches autonomy. I get the sense he gives them the autonomy. He tells them kind of what he wants. I'm sure he gives input, but he tries not to overload them. And I think from that perspective, if that is what he's doing, I really do think he, especially offensively, has to say, and I guess he's doing it. This is what I think we need to do this week. This is how we need to go about it. And I want us to stay true to it, right? Mm-hmm. And that's tough when you got a guy, like Grimes, it's like fantastic and he's great. But I think, for this team, and I said it last week on the radio to you guys, man, that with the line you have, you just got to tell teams, look, this is what we're going to do, and I'm going to make you stop it. And then when you feel like you got to get down here and stop it, I got a couple guys that'll run by you. That to me, that's how this team wins. And it's great to have that, Blake Chapin is a great toy, man. I'm telling you, because he can sling it, but it's tempting sometimes to overuse that toy. And you gotta stay away from it if your line is who we think they are.
Tomorrow we have a guy named Landry Burdine.
Oh yeah.
On the show, does some stuff with TCU. We set that up for tomorrow, and
oh wow.
He sent me a text and said, "Tell my son JJ Joe, Landry Burdine said hello."
Hello, Landry. That's hey man, that's old Viking there too. Old Burdine is yeah. He's a little younger than me. He's a pup. I think he's a little young. Yeah, he's a little younger than me, but that's a great guy.
Just wanted to throw that out there for you because he asked me to tell you that today.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
JJ, West Virginia's secondary is probably their biggest weakness. I've been on 2 of the 3 different West Virginia podcasts I'm going on this week, and they both lamented it greatly. Is this a matchup that can be good for the receivers, particularly to start to build some confidence? Because it hasn't mattered what West Virginia's done; they can't stop anybody through the air.
Yeah, I'm hoping, but because their front, they still have some decent bodies up front. I think they still have one of those Steele brothers there. Yeah, golly, those guys been in college like 12 years, man. But I do agree that, we're going to have to throw the ball. Don't get misinterpret my message. My message, I know we have to throw the ball. But, I think the attitude for this team is established by physically wearing on other teams. If we don't physically wear on another team, I think the efficacy of what we're trying to do really is not as pronounced in the fourth quarter. And that's when we really need to get to the point where we take things away from teams. So I think, on Thursday, it's going to be a tough environment. Our guys on the edge have to make some plays. That's their weakness. We need to be able to attack it. But I don't think we can get so carried away at attacking it that we forget that, for this final run, we're gonna have to be really physical, and we're gonna go against the meat of our schedule here. And we gotta go take it some teams. And normally, with this group, you're gonna do that up front.
One more thing, JJ, as far as Graham Harrell's influence on West Virginia's offense, have you seen a difference?
I saw him. I watched him in Virginia Tech. That W they got. And I watched him, I think, that first week against Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. I think that's right. I think they played Pittsburgh. Yep. And, these spreads and now, the way it is. Graham, air raid guy, tech guy. For me, obviously there's some small differences, but, they have a good quarterback. They can operate it now. And I think it's not a significant difference to me, but I'm sure there are some tweaks in there. But I think for us, Dave, I think for on Thursday night, I think for us, really, it's going to boil down to, how effectively we help keep those guys off the field, mm-hmm. how physical we are with West Virginia. And because I think if we let them play how they're going to play us, right, they're going to attack our weak. I hate to use the word weak, but the edge of our defense that has less experience in the middle, and then that can turn into a really challenging contest for us if we let them play like they want to play, and then we try to play that game with them.
They did lose.
They'll attack our guys on the corner.
They did lose their big banger at running back, but they have others. But they lost Donaldson for this week in concussion protocol. Jalen Daniels, I don't know if you've heard this news, the Kansas quarterback that's been spectacular, although Bean played really well in the loss to TCU. Grade 3, is that right, Paul? Grade 3 separation, out for the year.
Now, I did just get a text from a Kansas friend of mine that said that Kobe Bryant, their defensive back, responded to On3's Instagram page and saying that that's not true, but we'll see. But it was a guy from the Lawrence Journal-World, that reported.
So that could be the case, but I thought Bean played very well in the moment and looked like he's matured for the last couple of years.
Yeah, no.
I like Bean. I mean, I liked him last year. I mean, I didn't see as much of because I think Bean played against us. Jalen played a little bit, I think. But I hate that I'm really impressed by that young man. So I hope that's not the case. I hope he's able to kind of come back. But that's bad news, man.
Yeah, it is. He's terrific, and Bean can play like he did, though. Like maybe he'll still keep it going, but that's obviously terrible for Jalen Daniels. Yeah,
Bean can run, man. I mean, he's more of an accurate thrower than you think, and it looked like in that game he was very poised, but he's a runner. I mean, like if you let that kid and think about what Spencer Sanders did against us. You let him find space, he accelerates really quickly.
Does he look like Seth Russell to you running the ball?
No, well, you know what I mean. I mean, he's kind of long like Seth.
Yeah.
Seth, it was funny because to me, Seth was a little stiffer than Bean, just a little bit, but Seth was moving, man. I mean, you didn't think he was moving. So, but similar body build, I would say that similar body build.
JJ, final thing for you here, and I'm not trying to be like overly dramatic guy or anything like that, but I've kind of been looking at this game from various angles, and I hate to use must win halfway through the season, but does this in some ways, being at 3-2 and looking at the rest of the schedule, does this feel kind of like a must win coming up on Thursday? It feels like that for West Virginia, but I think it also feels like that for Baylor. What are your thoughts?
You know, that's a good one. I mean, this would give us two conference losses, so I think mathematically, no. With everybody, I know we have Kansas, but who's undefeated?
K-State.
K-State's undefeated in conference, and Oklahoma State. So, you know, you would kind of be behind the 8 ball. So I'm not going to say mathematically it's not a must win. I think psychologically for this team, it's a must win.
Yeah.
I think psychologically they will not recover if we lost this game. That's just my opinion.
Did anyone ever say you threw the ball like Quinn Ewers?
No, man, nothing like that. That kid, man, I'll tell you, man, hey, I wasn't sure about that kid, but I mean, hey, he's got something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he does.
He's got something, and I'm interested to see. And I think, you know, he did play a tough game with Alabama, but I still believe that he's got some growing pains like we always see, and that the Alabama game, to me, where he really did, he played well. I was very surprised. It was the perfect game for Texas. Because you had Sark there. Sark knew exactly how to attack him. He had a whole summer to prepare for Snick, and he had the perfect plan. They just couldn't cap it off. And then OU is you know they're struggling. And hey, look, but we've been there. You know, when you lose that kind of, no matter how good you were the year before, when you have that much turnover, we went through it from 19 to 20. You're just going to have some fall off, and I think that's what they're feeling.
Thank you, JJ. Appreciate it. Great stuff today, as always. JJ Joe, former Baylor quarterback,